Good morning, people that are joining us. Welcome.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's so good to see some friendly names that we know on there. We miss you all. We wish we could be doing this, in person, but
That would
hope
be great.
everyone's, yeah. But Zoom is great as well.
This is true. Feel free to jump in the chat and say hello and let us know where you're calling in from. I'm in New Zealand.
Yeah, Tim decided to leave his Los Angeles disco family, which we don't blame you, but now he's in the future.
I'm in the future. It's tomorrow. It's great. It's really nice weather tomorrow.
I'm going to set a little poll live. I'd just like to know who's joining us.
Oh,
Are you a
thanks, Keith.
publisher? Are you a label supervisor? So let us know. We'll wait just another minute and let some more folks join in, and then we'll get started.
Excellent. Oh, we've got some Belgium and France and New Jersey, Burbank.
Beautiful Burbank. Hey, Christina.
The Vancouver Island. Lots of publishers in the house.
Yeah. Not surprised. Well, it's 11 o'clock in Los Angeles, so we can get going. Thank you guys so much for joining the Disco Libraries webinar today. Hope everyone is staying safe and hanging in okay. My name is Katrina, and we're joined with my teammate Tim here, and we run business development and lead these webinars and training at Disco, and we're really glad to have you guys joining us today. So we're going to show you how to set up a client-facing searchable library with Disco. Disco Libraries has probably been the most requested feature to date, so we're very, very excited to be able to hear your thoughts and share it with you guys. Disco Libraries is your way to give your clients and industry partners access to search your catalog when they want at their leisure, and you're also going to have the flexibility of setting up multiple curated libraries, so you can really tailor those to specific audiences. For those of you in sync, which is likely the majority here, turnaround times can be really quick, and oftentimes people want to search for what they need at that very moment in time. So Disco Libraries is going to ensure that your catalog is always working, it's open 24/7, and you're really considered for all opportunities. Plus, for all the supervisors that are also on Disco, they can browse your client library and save your music straight to their Disco. Disco Libraries is also a really good tool for music supervisors. When you're working on projects with tons and tons of music and you need to send lots of playlists or tons of buckets of music over to showrunners, directors, or editors, you can really create a curated branded library for them on specific projects. Another option for supervisors is to use a library as an archive of music from past projects that you could share with networks or studios. And then for artists or composers that are joining us today, libraries is a really affordable way for you to showcase your catalog when you're kind of shopping around label or publishing or sync deals. So within this hour-long training, we are going to show you how to promote different parts of your catalog. I'm going to show you how to control who has access and who can create playlists, how to take advantage of the AI tagging, so you can just have a nice little robot do the tagging for you. And then yay for robots. They are, sometimes people are like, oh, AI taking over the world. But this little Disco AI will really help you save time. But then most importantly, it's like, how can we see how music supervisors are going to be able to find your music straight from within their Disco? So before I pass the mic to Tim, who's going to run through the training, if you guys have any questions as we go through, feel free to ask them in the Q&A portion of Zoom at the bottom. And then we're going to get to that after we run through everything. But then I'm also going to be jumping in like live chatting with y'all if you have any questions. So Tim, take it away.
Alrighty then, let's see here. How do I get over to what I want? Perfect. Thanks for the little intro, Katrina. So everybody, I'm very glad that you did manage to join us today. It's a little earlier in some places and a little later in others. So we're going to start with what a library looks like from a client perspective and how they would access it. So you can pretend like you are me and you're a client on this library called Midnight Choir. The first thing that you get when you land on the home page is this banner and the logo, the library name and a description, keeping in mind that you can create multiple libraries for different purposes. So you might have one that's like a one-stop library for anyone to access, and then one that's specific for a brand that you work with and only they access that, and they'd all have their own content. So these descriptions obviously could change on a per library basis. As we scroll down, we've got featured tracks. And as you might expect, you can actually listen to the music, which is quite revolutionary, of course. And to the right of every song, there are some different options that the clients can take if they have permission to actually access your library. And we'll go deeply into permission later on. There's just a bunch of tags that are like the most common tags that appear on your library. Featured playlists, you can have more than 3 and you can scrub through them on this little carousel, and that's the same with featured artists. So as you're setting up your library, you will choose which tracks, which playlists, and which artists you actually want featured on the home page. So thinking about why people are coming here, they're obviously looking for music for some purpose. So it's really designed around searchability and simplicity. And we're trying to create it so that, if the supervisor or whoever's looking lands on 100 different disco libraries from different companies, they're going to have a very similar experience because everything's basically in the same place instead of, it's completely rearranged every time, totally different tags and that kind of thing. So one thing they might do is just come straight to the search bar and start looking for a term. For some reason, young came to mind. And so we've got tracks first, lyrics show up, and they actually quote where the lyric is in context, artists that might have that word. So the search bar is looking through the metadata on your tracks. Even though it's not all visible here, it's looking through it in the background, and it's looking through the lyrics, and it's obviously looking through the track tags, which we'll go further into later as well. Let's just click on a track. So you can go into the track view, and this shows all the tags on the track. Obviously, we can play through the song, our play and pause button in the artwork. We can go and look at lyrics if they are present. And you've got your little options that are available anywhere you can see a track. But if I'm logged in as a client that's been given permission, I can download, I can favorite, which is going to add it to my music area, which is unique to me as a client. I can add to different playlists that I've already created. Again, they're living in my music. Add that to the Swagger playlist. I could create a brand new playlist as well while I'm in the middle of it. And of course, I can save directly to my Disco account if I happen to have one. So that's a track view. If you click the name of the library, this takes you back to the home page. And just while we're here, I can always click into a playlist. These are all the tracks. If I hit play, it'll just play through the playlist, download the entire playlist. And then you've got your artist profiles. So as soon as you add a song to your library, which we're definitely going to go into later, it looks at the artist metadata field, and if it's unique, it creates an artist profile, which you can then populate with artwork and with a logo. Sorry, not a logo, a bio. All of their songs will automatically appear on their profile, and you can actually put them in the order that you want them to appear as well. So those are sort of the three main parts: tracks, playlists, artists, and we'll be adding them in different ways to the library. Then we can look at the search using filters. So if I can't think of any words that I might type into the search bar, I can let the filters kind of prompt my brain. So, oh yes, anthemic, that's exactly what I'd like today. And immediately anthemic appears in the search bar because I've selected it, and I can always remove it from here if I'm further down my search somewhere else. Anthemic and confident. And it's just going to keep combining. It is an and type search, so it'll limit the results further and further as we add more options. I might go vocals, and maybe I want a genre. And so I've narrowed down to a nice little set of tracks, which of course I can listen to, and maybe I'll playlist some of them or save them to my disco right on the fly. So that's very, very quickly, using search filters. Again, I don't want female vocal here anymore. I can just X that off, and it resets those results to just these three things. Down here, the discover area, playlists. So this is where all of the playlists that you've added to the library will live. Some of them may be featured on the homepage. Artists, same deal. All of your artists will be combined here, and you can feature some. When I go into my music area, my music, these are the playlists that I've created so far, and any tracks that I have favorited. And there's the little favorite doohickey. So lastly, there's this little contact area, which just shows, about you, how to contact, and a website if you've got one. We will be adding sort of a form type thing very soon where somebody could, I guess, request a license, and that will evolve further and further in the future to make licensing nice and easy. So that's the majority of what I'd talk about on a client library. There is this little person icon up here, so it shows that I am logged in as a client. And just so you guys understand, there's two main ways. Like, a client could land on the site if you've kind of put it out there, and you can have it set up so it's accessible, but unless you've given them permission to log in, they wouldn't be able to do any of these functions. And if they tried to download a track, it will prompt them to log in. And if that particular login doesn't actually have permission, then it will send a thing to you saying, do you want to grant permission to this person? So we'll look at that inside Disco. And maybe that's confusing, but it'll hopefully make sense soon. So let's jump into Disco and how to actually set up and create the library. We are going to just assume that everybody here already kind of knows how Disco works, so we're not going into the basics. We're going just straight to the libraries part. So in the tools, there are libraries. When you open this area, this is going to show all the libraries that you have created. So we have different libraries for different purposes, with different content, with different clients that have been allowed to access or see them. So it's very nice to control for different purposes. Over here, there are 13 playlists on this library and 110 tracks, and you can see if they're set live or not. I can manage, rename, delete. I can also just click straight into the library like that. And that has now taken me into the CMS, or the content management system area of this particular library. So how do we add content Interestingly enough, it's up here in the content area. And the first thing that I can see is all of my channels. So this is essentially a mirror of this part of Disco. So the first and simplest thing for you to do is create a channel for the particular library that you want to create, and then populate the channel with the tracks and playlists that you're thinking about adding to that library. Because then all you have to do is come into the library on the content tab and select that channel. Magically, all the tracks that are in that channel are gonna be in the background of this library. It is important to know that at this point, it's not gonna actually add the playlists that are in the channel. It'll add the tracks that are on the playlists and any tracks that are just floating around. But this action of ticking a box next to one of these channel folders only takes the tracks within that channel. Then I can go here to playlists. We'll do this first. And this is how you add actual playlists to the library. Add a new playlist, hit the plus sign. And then I can search for any playlist in my entire library to add to this library. And sorry, I can search for any playlist in my Disco to add to this library. Then so you can see this one's published on here already. And the other ones, as you hover over them, there's a little checkbox. So let's just choose a few little playlists to add. Add 2 playlists. So now that I've chosen a channel or 2 to add to my library, and I've chosen some playlists, I can click on the tracks area, and it's just going to show all the tracks on this library, whether they're on playlists or whether they're in channels. And then on the right, there are these little check boxes, and that's how I can feature the tracks on the home page. I can always go and take a look on this featured tracks area to see which ones are actually featured. And then you can choose the order they're in just with this little order picker. So that's tracks and featured tracks. Let's go back to playlists, and I want to feature some playlists. So I can just go, this one's already featured, you can see that, but this little menu, remove from featured playlists, add to featured playlists. And then there's some cool things you can do just to edit. It's just editing the imagery of the playlist. So by default, it just pulls all of the artwork and makes this nice little combo image, collage. I could just choose a color if I wanted to, and you can put in the code there. Or you can upload your own image. We've seen some really cool things that people have done with GIFs. You have little GIF images for your playlist art, or just making custom imagery specifically for that. This is my electronic playlist. This is my Christmas playlist. That's also, it seems to go a long way as well. So anyway, I'm in the playlist area on the little menu, edit playlist. Unpublishing the playlist is just going to remove it from this library. It will be just gone. Then let's look at artists. So as I said, as soon as we start adding tracks, it creates a unique artist profile for every unique piece of artist metadata. So if something was spelt wrong, like if there was Alpine and then there was Alpine with a space after the E, you'd actually see 2 Alpine profiles appear here. And that's annoying. So just make sure you don't have random spaces after any of your metadata. We can go in and edit the artist, change the artwork, and add in their little bio. And then we have all these artists. So this is kind of the most time-consuming part, honestly, of setting up the library, is adding artist profiles if you feel like it's really necessary. You can also see that there's this little checkbox area to feature the artist on the home page. And just like the other areas, featured artists. Here they are. Contact, super simple. Fill out the form. Design, this is your big banner at the top of the screen, the logo, and the name and description of your library. And then the theme color, that's going to be like the waveform color and the button colors, that kind of thing. So it's nice to kind of sync up your theme. Let's look at, let's go to settings, then we'll come back to clients. So in the settings, first things first is that accessibility option. So if I share this library with, I could just post it, like it could link off my website. Down here, you'll see soon we're going to be able to add the custom domains. So you can actually create your own domain for the library. But for now, let's just say I've got a page on my website that says, search my library. They click that and it takes them off to my Disco library. So essentially I've made it publicly viewable. So I'd have it set as anyone can view. They'll land on it, they can see it, they can listen to music and do a search. The second they try to download, save to Disco, create a playlist, any of those options, it's going to request them to log in. And when they try and log in, first, if they've never ever logged into a Disco library before, they can create a login. And then they can use that same login, which is literally just an email and a password. They can use that on any Disco library once they've been given permission to actually log in. If they already have a Disco account, then they can just use their Disco login credentials to log into the library. But there is a point where they'll still have to be given access. So you can see here, these are the approved people, rejected people, invited, and there's another option. Essentially, it'll say pending if they've requested access, and you can then come in here and say approve. And you'll get notification. And at the moment, the notification is in the notification bell that someone has requested access. And we're setting up different email notifications at the moment. And so if I just come back here to the settings again, so again, they can land on it, they can view it, they can't download anything until you've actually approved their permission. The login required option, they just hit a wall that says login. They can't see your library or do anything. So if you had a private library for just a client, you'd definitely set it like this, and you specifically invite the clients that should have access to it. And that way no one could ever see it or access it by accident. Hopefully that makes sense. Allow supervisors to see my library. So this is essentially the way you can opt in, and this is absolutely brand new. If you say, allow supervisors to see my library in their feed, create a description, then what will happen is if they're a music supervisor, they get this area at the bottom of the libraries, browse libraries on Disco. Firstly, they'll see all the libraries they have access to. View all, let's just see all these libraries. So currently these are ones that are opted in. We've just told people about this, and people are, you know, only just starting to build their libraries. So, you know, the sooner you get your library built and you can opt in as well, you'll appear in this list. And again, it's only the library you choose to opt in. So you can have one that's in this and one that is completely private, and another one and another one and another one. So a supervisor can come in here and they're like, oh, great, I love butter. And it takes them straight to the butter library. They may not have permission yet, but they can sign in and ask permission to download and things like that. And just to make a point here, you can see there aren't featured tracks and there aren't featured artists. There are just the featured playlists. I typically recommend putting some featured tracks on just to fill it out a little bit with some content at the top. But everyone's kind of in this halfway stage of getting themselves together on our libraries at the moment. So a supervisor could also come here and just search for the name of a library that they, you know, someone they like. And if they have a library that's opted in, they'll find it. They can also favorite libraries and just bring things to the top. And as far as everything else, it's kind of going to randomly be placed in here. And in the future, we're working on different ways to expose different libraries and hopefully help people get discovered in different ways over time. So that's the quick look at what's happening with this idea of browse libraries, which really is the first time that Disco's ever done anything where you could find another disco within Disco. And so it's quite an exciting change, and it's been very, very requested. Let's see, I'll just jump back into this library. So on our clients page, we were just here. These are where all the clients are that have access to this library. Obviously, I can approve and deny and reject. Stats. So this is where you can get a general overview of how people are accessing and what they're doing on the library. It's not as refined as playlist stats, where you've shared a specific playlist with the person and you can see the songs they streamed and downloaded. This is aggregated, so just most streamed playlists, most streamed tracks, most streamed artists, most downloaded tracks, that kind of thing. And you've got graphs. You can look at a time period of activity. You can add and remove the different things here. There's a users area as well, activity and users, most active users. This is an imaginary library, so there aren't really any users on it. So that's stats, preview and share, pretty straightforward. There's the link, share it. So there's two ways you can share, obviously. You can invite people. You have to set a library live before you can invite people. I'm actually not sure why this is grayed out right now. Oh, it's because we're on the demo version. So yeah, you'll be able to get into the libraries and do a 14-day trial where you can build a library and just check it out. Once you subscribe, then you can set your library live. You can opt into the browse libraries area, and we'll go into pricing and plans and stuff and how all that works just in a little bit. But essentially, preview and share. Here's the link. So inviting people one by one to your library could take quite a long time if you know quite a lot of people. So what I'd recommend doing is grabbing the link, doing a blast out to your contacts. Hey guys, if you ever want to search my library, here's the link. Then when they get round to it, they'll go to the link, and once they need access, they'll just request it. And so you'll just start getting those requests flowing in instead of literally one by one inviting them specifically to the library. So there's just a couple of ways that you can do it. We will be adding actually another way of doing a bulk invite, but for now it's just one email at a time. And then, so something else that's really important to understand about tags. Here are all the filters and tags that appear on the left of the screen. If there were no tags, and when I talk about tags, let's just go into a song. These are the tags that I'm talking about. Native tags or track tags. It's a specific part of Disco, and you've got your categories where you can choose and add different vibes. If you don't have any tags here on any of your songs, there will be nothing on the left part of this column. Nothing. It will just say filters, and no filters will appear. So you really do need to tag your tracks to make it helpful for your clients to search through your music. And a lot of people have already tagged all their music manually. This is the part where our auto tagger comes in to make your life easier. And frankly, it's the reason we built it in the first place, was so that you could bring in a library of tracks that have no tags on them, run them through the auto tagger so that they're immediately tagged with genre. It's mainly genre, vocals, instrument, mood, and feel. Like this has all been added by our auto tagger, not explicit. I don't think it knows explicit though. And then you can launch a library and it's immediately searchable. Just a couple of things on the tagging and the auto tagger. It's about 80% accurate. It's not perfect. It is a machine. It doesn't do lyric themes. It doesn't listen to the lyrics or read them or go anywhere to try and find them. So that's one part that would be missing. And it always will need some form of refinement. Just like your intern tagged all of your music, you're going to go in and you're going to probably remove and add some tags as well. This is just one that's a lot faster than an intern and hopefully more consistent and a little bit more accurate. We've trained it based on data from all across Disco and every Disco user and like tens of thousands of tags or hundreds of thousands of tags really. So this is what you should expect, but you're going to come in and maybe it's got dance here as well, or R&B or something kind of slightly out there. So you just click the little X and you remove the tag. That trains the AI. It's like, oh, that isn't R&B. If I see this song somewhere else, I know it's not that, or this sound is not that thing. And then when you add your own tags, it learns from that as well. So everyone's kind of training it. And after tens of thousands of inputs, then we might understand what psychedelic sounds like or a specific Latin genre. And then we'll start integrating that learning into the actual tagger so it adds them itself. And as far as setting up auto tags, there's two main ways to work it. There's this auto tagged tracks area, which is kind of essentially it's like a channel. If I want to tag a track, I just drop it in like that. It's gonna then get tagged within 5 minutes. It just scans every 5 minutes, and anything in there that hasn't got tags, it listens and tags. And so it is audio only. It's not going and researching metadata from somewhere else to find out any kind of information. It's literally just scanning the audio and somehow it knows what rock sounds like. So that's one way. You can also have it set up so that as soon as you upload a track, it gets tagged immediately. And that's awesome. You do need to have the tagging or discovery suite quota would need to match your base plan quota. So if you've got a disco with 1,000 track quota on your plan, you subscribe to the discovery suite, which is the libraries and auto tagging, and that would need to have a 1,000 track quota if you just want it to automatically tag as soon as you upload things. You can also have a much lower quota for discovery suite if you want. It's completely separate. So you could have a 250 track discovery suite because you only want to put 250 tracks into your libraries and have them tagged, and that's totally fine. So that's a real quick thing about auto tagging and a quick look at how to build a library. So just
Hey,
a real,
Tim,
yeah.
I do want to just jump in. Yeah, there's so many good questions, but there's one particularly that popped up about tagging that feels like we can address now. When you say it learns tags by adding tags, does that mean that the tags that are currently existing in the library and not new custom tags? No, actually. If you are going to add a custom tag to your track, that does kind of send a flag back to our AI that there's a new tag that's been added and it should be trained on whatever that is. So the more that the disco community is adding tags, removing tags, the better that this AI tagging is going to be. It's just going to be trained by, the sync community. So it'll be more accurate as it goes.
Yeah, and so just on that note, we have our preset vocabulary that we have taught the auto tagger, and it will only add those. If you add custom tags, it will see that you added a custom tag, bossa nova, like I just did, but it would not suddenly know what bossa nova is and start tagging that. We would have to take a huge sample set to say, this is bossa nova, and now you're allowed to tag tracks with bossa nova. So over time, we'll start adding new words to its vocabulary that it would actually add. So in the meantime, it's just taking all the information in so that we can analyze it and learn. Because we just need as wide a set as possible before we'd actually release another word into its vocabulary.
And on that note, you can add as many custom tags as you want in the track tag area. There's no limit. So go to town.
That's true. And just we have purposefully started with a very, very, very tight list of tags. There's 160, I think, because we wanted to start from the smallest possible options. And then everyone definitely jumps in and they add their own tags, and that's awesome. But for a client that's landing on a library, we want to have at least this core set that's kind of the same, and rock means rock and electronic means electronic. And so the AI tagger provides that consistency with a little less opinion involved. And yeah, because it's all about making the client experience as easy and fast as possible. That is what we're trying to do here.
And one more thing, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, Tim, I was like frantically writing people back, but just to make sure it's clear that if you do add auto tagging to your Disco subscription, it's not going to overwrite any tags that you've already added there. So it's just going to add to it.
Yeah, that's correct. Only adding. Should we just jump into Q&A?
I think so. There's about 13 that I've saved that are good ones. So cool. Let me see. Okay, one thing that maybe we can just make sure everyone's clear on, because it can be confusing sometimes. Channels and libraries, how they complement each other. You have to create the channel first and add all the tracks that you want to showcase in your client library to that channel. Then you link that channel to the library.
Yeah, so let's just do it real fast, okay? I clicked this plus sign. I'm adding a new channel for a brand new library. New library of awesomeness. Okay, create channel. What is awesome in my Disco account? Because that channel's got nothing in it right now. So let's go and find some awesome swagger, because for 100 years now, it has been the most popular sound in sync. I just added a couple of songs to that channel. Actually, let's get that channel up the top. I hope you're all aware of this, but if you set this little filtery thing to custom, you can move your channels into whichever order you like. And it's only for you, and other users on your account will keep their order. So we're just throwing some tracks in here. And let's find some playlists. I'll just do this. Let's add that playlist and that playlist. So here's my channel. It's got some tracks and some playlists in it, and I'm ready to create my library. The first thing that's important is that these playlists will not appear in the library when I do this initially. Only the tracks inside of them will appear in the library. So libraries, create new library, awesome library. It's got 0 tracks. So I go to content first, and new library of awesomeness, update content, tracks. So all the tracks in that channel, including the ones in those playlists, are here. If I click on playlists, no playlists. I have to go and find them. Ooh. Let's just add a couple like that. So the reason I put the playlists in this channel at all was more just like a planning thing. So I'm like, oh yeah, that folk and country one and that extras, for example, disco one. I want to get them on my library. But I know that I have to come back here and go to playlists and then find them. Well, that's really helpful. Actually, sorry. Okay, and just see what I did there? That doesn't work because that's searching for the playlists that I've already added to the library. I have to go add new playlist and then find it. There you are. And then I can favorite, add to featured. Add to featured. Let's find some tracks to feature. Oops. Featured tracks. Let's preview our library. This has no design or anything, so it's going to look slightly funny from the top. But at least I've got some tracks and some playlists here. And if I click on playlists, the other playlists are there. And there are some artist profiles from all the different artists on all the different tracks that I added. So that's the really, really, really fast, make a channel, put the content in it, create the library, go to the content area and just hit yes, I want this one, and then find the playlists. The next thing would just be adding a photo and a logo there, and then my library would look pretty good and be basically ready to publish in a very quick and easy way. Does that clarify how we'd use channels and libraries together?
I think that was a great explanation.
Well, thanks, Katrina.
Give us your favorite emoji in the chat if that was helpful. Okay, Jude says very helpful. Okay, can we go back to access, client access? Yes. So good question about if you are setting up multiple libraries, is there like a wall between those libraries? So if you give access to a library to one client, they can't get into the others.
Correct.
Yeah.
Every library has completely independent content from 0 tracks to 1 billion, and has got completely different clients that have been invited or given access. Because like right here, as you can see, I can just reject, approve, reject or approve people, or invite them or not invite them. So this is the list of people that have access to this particular library. And if I go into this one, here's the list for this library. And that's more specifically controlled. If I have login required, then even if random people land on the library, they can't see anything. They have to log in just to get in there to start. So that's your real protected library. Anyone can view is a little looser. They can see it, they can play songs, they can search, but they cannot download until this approval has happened.
And then another great question, which is, how does the client get notified that they've been invited or approved?
It's an email invite. And I'm not sure, I actually don't know, but when you give them approval, I'm not sure if that sends another note.
It doesn't. I tried it.
Right. Gotcha. So that's something that we could add. I don't know if you're all on the phone app, but we have a phone app. So if you go into your app store and search for Disco Music Management, get the app because it's awesome. This sort of notification thing is a little easier if it's on your phone. And of course, just listening to music is a lot better through the app than other ways.
You'll also get notified the bell icon, the bell icon. Did you talk about that already?
Yeah, like that's where your notifications do come in. But there is an email that is sent as well. Well, actually, no, there isn't yet. There will be an email sent once someone requests approval, and we're just setting up it so that you can choose who gets that email, or if multiple people on your team get the email. Because we do know that everyone wants to be able to approve as fast as possible if there is a request for access.
Yeah. Yep. And Jude asking about the app. It's Disco Music Management in App Store or in the Google Play Store. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Here's a good question. Can you add artwork to your library? For example, tour posters from artists that a TV show might want to add to their set, or just audio?
Almost, yeah. So right now it's just audio, and we're adding video and document like PDF. I'll double check if that includes photos. It'd be kind of unusual not to allow photos as well. So we'll check that that's going to happen. So that is in the plans, yes. Especially, and that's great. So the whole use case of a music supervisor creating an archive for a show they worked on, so that the people from the, on the show side or the network can come and be like, oh, where's that song from season 2, or what was the promo track for that thing, or where's the license for this other thing, and that you could have that all hosted in a library, and just a nice, simple, centralized place for those sorts of assets at the very end of a show.
And then since you're on the clients page now, just going back to the question about how to know which clients have access to which libraries, you go into the specific library, into the client tab, and then you can see who's pending, approved, or if you're super mean and you reject them, you'll see that there too.
So see how I'm going back to the beginning? Here are all of my libraries that I've created. If I go into it, to the clients tab, I can see. So this one has no clients.
And this is a good question. How just confirming that one track can be in as many libraries that you want, as long as it's part of that library quota?
Yes.
Yes.
That is a great question. So let's say you've got a 250 track quota. Let's say it's a 1,000 track quota. And this is it. This is your disco account. All of these, as long as there's no more than 1,000 unique tracks across all of your libraries, you're fine. But you could put the same track into 10,000 libraries if you have a 1,000 track quota. I hope that makes sense.
Ooh, I love this. It's not possible, but it's a great feature request that I think we'll do. Is there a way or plan in the future to set up a mechanism for automatic client account approvals? So if you could upload a bunch of supervisors that if they do request access, they just automatically can get in. We've heard that quite a few times, so we will look into that. I think that would be so helpful on both ends. Yeah.
I think that once there's a bulk invite option, if you've bulk invited people, I'm imagining that if somebody then ends up landing on your library that's already been invited, that invitation was the approval in the first place. But we'll just double check the mechanism there. So they just need to create the login and log in, and that would be it.
Johnny has a good question, which I don't think we covered it, which is, can Disco libraries be embedded on our own websites? Which is no, you cannot. No. But you can set up a redirect. So you could just have like a button on your website that's like, search our catalog, my library, and then it can link to the library page.
Yeah, essentially you can make the library a custom domain within, with your own website domain, but it wouldn't be embedded into your website, and it cannot be, tim.com/library. It has to be a domain, which is like a library.tim.com. So this is almost up and running, and that will be the best way. But you can just have a button that says search my library. They click on that and then they just take into that page.
And for those of you on the webinar who do not see libraries or auto tagging in your tools area, just write to support or hop into the chat in the bottom right, and we can add the trial version of both to your account so you can have a play with it. So it's free to create libraries. It's free to try out the auto tags. We can give you like 50 tracks to give a spin on that. And then they just are a paid add-on, which we'll get to in just a moment, if you want to publish it. But no, you can trial it for free. Can you add a YouTube video to a track? No.
No.
But
You could
I'm
link.
curious about
Yeah, that's
that.
interesting. You could add a video, you know, a link somewhere in here, but that would link out. There isn't an embedding option on the libraries at this point.
Yeah.
But seem to support the request for and describe what it is that you're imagining there. It'd be quite interesting to learn. Any other questions? How are we looking?
I'm trying to just filter through what we've already talked about. I think, how do I find other Disco users to send libraries? How can we search them?
That is not possible. So at the moment, what we're doing is we essentially have vetted supervisors, because there's hundreds and hundreds of music supervisors that are on Disco, and we're turning on this function for them so that they can browse any libraries that opt in to be discoverable by them. But other Disco users can't really just randomly find other Disco users. It's not set up for that at this point. But it'll be good to know sort of the purpose that you have in mind for that.
Paul's asking if you can have more than 10 unique Disco libraries, that it maxed out after 10.
Yeah, you can. It's just they're fixing that. It's just a connection between the back end and the front end that it's just limited for some reason in the initial design. There's just an accidental limitation. So that's being fixed. There won't be a limit to how many libraries you can have.
And then another question about the sounds like search that we have coming soon, which is connected to auto tagging. So how that works is if you get a reference track from a supervisor, they send a brief out, you can grab that reference track from YouTube, copy and paste the link in the search bar of Disco. We will tag that song and then kind of go through your catalog and identify any similarly tagged tracks to find those. So that is still coming soon. We are having music supervisors QA it at the moment.
Yeah, there was a lot of work on that over the last few months. It turns out it's extraordinarily difficult to teach a computer how to know what's actually important when comparing the similarity of songs. But the model is way, 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 way better than it was about 6 months ago. And yeah, like it's actually being tested by supervisors at the moment, which is very exciting. So hopefully they approve. Yeah. There's just, everybody, I was just going to say, everybody understands the auto tagging is like an ongoing training, and it's just going to improve and improve and improve and improve. So it's taken us a long time to get it to this point, but it will just consistently get more accurate and learn more things. Like that's obviously our aim. So, when you first get on there, you will notice things that are not perfect about it, but all you have to know is that it will improve, especially as you help correct it.
Oh, good question that we're going to get to in our roadmap section of the webinar. Are the tracks added to libraries the optimized versions or the high-res versions, or both? So as library stands now, it's just MP3s, but soon we will be able to support WAVs or AIFs.
Yeah, that'll be in the settings, basically. Interesting that they're saying include only. Oh, this would remove. So what will happen just as soon as they add the support for WAVs and AIFs or high-res files, then both will always be available, just like Disco normally is when you send playlists. This would be the option to only include the MP3s, which we refer to as optimized. And so the WAVs would not be present. So currently this is actually what the default is, but that is coming soon. And another thing that's coming soon is this metadata option where you can choose to not have certain metadata fields searchable or available when people are looking at the tracks. And then if you have custom fields, which are available on our Pro plan, they will also be supported, so that when people are looking at a track, they will be able to see all the custom fields. The custom fields that you want them to be able to see would appear here, as well as other metadata.
So I want to answer one more question, and then we can go into kind of the roadmap for libraries and just answer any questions about adding it to your account. Really good question came in about what is the benefit of hosting our catalog on Disco libraries as opposed to source audio? There's a couple things there. I think if you are wanting to give music supervisors access to your catalog, I don't know any music supervisor that uses source audio as their music library. Like they'll go there to search for, sound design or library music. But the benefit of having this on Disco is that most music supervisors are also on Disco, so you're making it easy for them to get your music into their library with one click.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a cleaner, modern design as well if you're into aesthetics. I think this is a little bit more pleasing to the eye, but I'm biased.
I think the biggest thing really, it is definitely the network effect. And source audio has a network as well, and that's been around for quite a long time. So this is an alternative and or parallel source, So some people have Harvest, Source Audio, Sync Tank, and Disco, and they still have iTunes and Box as well. It just totally depends on where your audience is and what your audience that you're trying to sell to or license music to, what they need and want. So this is really fresh for us and in a brand new space. So hopefully it's going to help all the Disco using music supervisors to have a decent experience and be able to discover or manage the libraries that they want to have access to right here. But there's still a use case for other platforms as well. And we're just continuing to develop and fill the needs of everybody, hopefully.
All right.
Should I stop the share?
I think so. I think we can stop the share and we can just address next steps if you're interested in adding Disco libraries. So I mentioned earlier, if you want to trial it, just write to support. And we can get that sorted. If you've been on a trial and you're wowed and you're excited and you want to let supervisors start searching, you can also write to support and we can get you sorted with adding the libraries to your subscription. So Tim, do you want to pull up that one page? Cool. So just to give you guys an idea of what it looks like to add libraries and tagging. It starts at 250 tracks and it's just an additional $10 a month. So if you have a small catalog, it's quite affordable. And then it just goes up from there depending on how many tracks you want to showcase. A lot of companies we've been helping onboard libraries with aren't adding everything. So keep that in mind. Like if you just want to add like your one-stop catalog or just your, certain artists, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to showcase. And so you'll just, your rates are going to be based on those track size. So up to 20,000 tracks would be $200 a month. And if you do not want auto tagging, we can also talk about what that looks like. You can just write to us and we can give you a quote there.
Yeah, and I think that the big change there is if you do want to auto tag everything in your account, then you'd set the track quota to match your base plan quota. So if you have a 5,000 track base plan, you would be adding a 5,000 track discovery plan on top of that, and then you can get all of those tracks tagged. And then, but if you only are thinking of this from a library perspective and getting those tracks tagged just for the library, then of course having a smaller quota is totally fine. And that's why we're making it flexible to have totally separate quotas with the Disco library and auto tagging.
Yeah. And if you have multiple libraries set up, you're not paying per library, you're just paying for the number of tracks that are shared across those multiple libraries.
Exactly. Yeah, the subscription essentially just turns on libraries as a feature and turns on auto tagging as a feature, and then just has the number of tracks that you could add to them, unique tracks.
Yeah.
There is
there
is a 12-month commitment to this. The cost of auto tagging is spread over 12 months, basically, because it is actually a very, very high upfront cost. So that's essentially why you're seeing that there's a 12-month commitment. You can pay for it monthly if your base plan is paid monthly. If your base plan is paid annually, then you have to pay for Disco Discovery Suite annually.
Yeah. And the limit isn't 20,000 tracks, by the way. We just didn't want to, give you too many options here. You can just reach out to us and we'll give you a quote based on how many tracks you have. And I can't believe we're finishing on time, by the way. We're just about done and it's been exactly 1 hour. So unless there are any pressing questions, ask them now or email us later.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of things about nested tracks, by the way. We know people want that. We're looking into it.
Yeah, that's a build for next year that's happening. Any last minute questions hiding in there?
Yeah, there will be a replay. We're recording this. We will edit it down and send you the recording either today or tomorrow. So look out for that. Share it with your friends. Let us know if any other questions pop up. We're always happy to answer them or help guide you through this. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for joining us. Good work, Trina. And
Good work, Tim.
catch you all soon.
Bye, everyone.